Bonjour les amis, Kirby Jambon encore avec vous autres. Aujourd'hui, on va continuer nos leçons dans le français louisianais. Continuing our beginners Louisiana French lessons, we've been using in the past few videos the LSU Cajun French website, the glossary. And we've gone just to letter Q. And today we'll begin with letter R and go to the end of the glossary. Again, what we're doing is highlighting the words in the glossary that are either unique to Louisiana French or have a unique usage Louisiana French or unique pronunciation Louisiana French, or if not unique, it just might be a little different than some other varieties as well. So let's begin with letter R today. That first word on the Louisiana Cajun French website, and again you can follow along by using going on to that website as well. The word is raboure. Raboure. Raboure means either to work the land, to till, to plow. It comes from a change of pronunciation that sometimes happens in a language where certain consonant sounds get changed. It comes from laboure, which has the same origin as to labor in English, laboure, but we say raboure, raboure. Another word we want to talk about today is radoter and radotage. Okay, radoter is a word we use in Louisiana French. It can mean to chatter, to talk incessantly. It means to make a lot of noise with your mouth, and it's not a very positive thing. We talk about il y a des raconteurs et il y a des radoteurs. Un raconteur is a storyteller. And a radoteur is just someone who likes to hear the sound of his mouth going on and off. So yeah, radotage or just a radot. You can hear it say radotage, radot, radote. All come from this idea of just like talking without stopping, kind of thing. Let's talk about the word raison. Raison. And we use it pretty much the same as Louisiana French, raison. Raison does mean reason. When you say raison, for example, you say t'as raison. We don't say tu as raison, we say t'as raison, which should mean you are right. Right? You are right. It literally means you have reason. It's the way you say that you are correct, you're right. You can say t'es correct or t'as raison. A couple different ways to say that you are correct, you are right in that sense. Ramasser is the word which means to gather up, to bring together, to gather together, to pick up, and thus we can use it to mean to gather in crops as well, to harvest, to récolter, we can say ramasser as well. Okay. Let's talk about this next word here. I'd like to talk about the word radbois. Let's try that. Radbois. Radbois is the rat de bois. Literally, if you look at it, it looks like rat of the woods, and it's the word we use for a possum in Louisiana French. Radbois, rat de bois, radbois. Rat musqué, rat musqué is a muskrat. Rat musqué. In Louisiana French, we don't use the same international terms to describe the a roach or a cockroach. We use the term ravard or ravet, ravet or ravard. You can hear those two terms, ravard or ravet, for a cockroach. Okay, I think in international French they call it a cafard. We call it ravard. Okay. Récolte is used very often in Louisiana French. Récolte is a term, you'll find in international French as well, but récolte is used to mean la récolte is the crops, the harvest, and récolter is to harvest. And the récolteur, thus, is a farmer. We don't typically use the term fermier very much in Louisiana French. You would hear a récolteur more often than a fermier, or a petit habitant, a little inhabitant of a farmstead, or a récolteur, a harvester in a sense, are the words we use to mean a farmer more often in Louisiana French. All right. Talk about the word regarder, or internationally regarder. We say regarder, which is to look, or to look at, to watch. In Louisiana French, we would typically pronounce it regarder. We reverse that kind of sound, that whole idea we talked about earlier where the little unaccented E gets dropped, but then you need like a little sound in front of it, so you put regarder. And sometimes the regarder is not heard very often. So for example, an expression we have very often is like regardez donc, or regardez voir, which means to look there, look, see, look at what's going on out there. Look at this. And so regarder, or regard, And sometimes you might just hear the get dropped because it's not that not that pronounced. So you might hear it just garde, like garde donc, or garde voir ça, garde donc, or garde voir ça, which means look at that, look there, and so you'll hear that in a couple of expressions. All right. Let's talk about the word. The next word I like to talk about is let's go to this one here. How about the word rien? Rien. Rien is the word for nothing. But one of the things I want to point out with rien is that two things. Rien, which is word for nothing. In international French, you typically would never use this kind of, you never use the word pas with it. Like, for example, we've talked about the word pas is the way you make a sentence in negative. So, il y a rien, you might, il y a rien à faire, he doesn't have anything to do, or something like that. But Louisiana French, you do and can, and you'll hear it often, the word pas with rien. So you'd hear things like pas rien, right? Yeah. Well, qu'est-ce que t'as pu faire? Quoi t'as pu faire? What are you doing? Well, oh, pas rien. Nothing. Pas rien. And you will hear that expression, pas rien. In a few regions of Louisiana, you'll hear an Acadian expression that comes from rien que, to mean the same thing as just or only. For example, and it's pronounced yank, like yank. You'll hear, like back home, I would hear sometimes yank, oh yankin, which means just one, okay, all right, yank, and it comes from rien que, yank. We'll talk about the word rougarou, and again, rougarou is un loup-garou, which loup-garou is the word for a werewolf, a loup is a wolf, but very often you might hear it pronounced rougarou. That goes back to that other thing we saw with rabouret, where the L becomes an R sound in Louisiana French. Oh, and just a little interesting note here I see here is that, and I think I might have mentioned that before, that the town of Youngsville in Louisiana French is actually pronounced Roiville, like Roiville, Roiville. We talked about that. Okay, S. Let's talk about S. All right. The word we use for a leech. A leech is called un sensu. Un sensu. Probably comes from sucer le sang, which is to suck blood, sensu. We have the word, a little game called saut crapaud, which is like, it's kind of like leapfrog, a little game, saut crapaud. Okay. We mentioned this before in savane. I mentioned that in a song video I did as well. Savane. La savane is the word we use for a pasture. It's not the savanna or grasslands in general as we see in international French, but it's a pasture. Let's talk about this next one here. How about we're going to use the word serpent. We'll talk about serpent. And serpent is a snake, but in Louisiana French, unlike international French, it's la serpent. It's feminine term, la serpent. Internationally, it's le serpent. We say la serpent. La serpent Congo. La serpent Congo is the snake we call in Louisiana, in English, the water moccasin. Congo, I believe, comes from an African term for black. And so la serpent Congo means the water moccasin, which is a black snake, of course. Okay. Ciblem is a word for a type of squash. It's what we sometimes call a summer squash. It's a white squash typically. Soko. And soko is a muscadine. Yes, the fruit, the berry, muscadine. Let's see, another word we have here is unique to Louisiana French. How about we go with the term souris chaude. Souris, probably you may or may not know, a souris is a word for a mouse. In international French, and chauve-souris is the word for a bat, a chauve-souris, which literally sounds like bald mouse. Okay, we use the term souris chaude, which sounds like hot mouse in a sense. But I did see in an old glossary, in fact I saw it in that glossary I did in an earlier lesson in one of my other videos. And the glossary from it talks about les vieux parlers poitevin, the old French that was spoken around the Poitou and Poitiers region of France over there, that they had the term souris chaude, just like we say in Louisiana French. And souffleur is the word we use for a hummingbird, sometimes called in other varieties of French a colibri or an oiseau-mouche, which would be like a fly bird in a sense. We call it a souffleur, but it's meaning a flower sucker, kind of an idea. That's the idea there. I want to talk a little about this term, like the term suroît. sur roi, which is not in the dictionary there, but I think it should be. In certain areas of the state, we're going to hear the term sur roi and nord-roi. Sur roi and nord-roi refer to sud-ouest and nord-west. You know what they are yet? Yes. Southwest and northwest, right? It is an old Acadian term, sur roi. Le vent sur roi means the southwest wind. Le vent nord-west, nord-roi would be the northwest wind. So. But not everybody uses those terms, but it is found in Louisiana French as well. I'm going to talk about the word su. Su is the word, it comes from the word dessus. And a lot of times people think we're saying sur, which is a common term in French. It means on or upon, and we sometimes might say that. But more often than sur, we're actually saying su, which actually comes from dessus, which is also another version, kind of a synonym in a sense of being on or atop or upon, something like that. So, and we often say su. Sur le bayou. Sur le bayou means on the bayou. Sur le bayou. Okay. The letter T, let's go with the word chalk or chalk. Chalk or chalk. Those are the words we use for a blackberry. I talked about that before, how because of a little expression, a blackbird. And the reason I said that is because of the expression, sometimes the blackbirds would eat these berries and would seem inebriated, or would actually be inebriated in a sense. And so we got from chalk or chalk, we got the word chalké, which means to be blackbirded, in a sense, to be drunk. So we got that word. Tak-tak and tak-tak. Tak-tak is the word for popcorn. It's an onomatopoeia, obviously. And boule de tak-tak, these are popcorn balls we used to eat. And tal. And tal des ronces. Tal is a bush, and tal des ronces would be a blackberry bush. Des mûres des ronces are blackberries, or just des mûres is blackberries. Tandis que. Tandis que means, while, during. Which you might hear more often in international French, pendant, we would say tandis or tandis que. Let's see what he got. Tarte. Tarte, talk about the word tarte. Tarte is a word for pie in French, la tarte. But in certain regions of the state, la tarte refers to specific types of pies. The pie we would make with a sweet dough crust. For example, I know in some region, like the region where I'm from, we would actually use the English word pie and the French word tarte to distinguish between the two types of pies. Les tartes, or the sweet dough pies, sometimes called tarts in English, and the American style of making pie, we'd call them pie. But some people refer to tarte for all types of pies, like internationally as well. And tatai. And tatai can be a scary creature or a monster in certain regions, or tatai can be just a bug or an insect in certain other regions. Tatai comes from the word bétail, obviously. Also from bétail or bête. Bétail and bête are words for animals. And then from there you get the term bébête and tatai. Bébête is the word for an insect or bug in certain regions. Other regions they might say tatai. When the regions where bébête is an insect or a bug, tatai becomes a sort of like a scary monster. Okay. You would not want to, like, for example, one of the things if you were a parent and you'd see your kids with their feet hanging out of their bed while they're sleeping, you would go and kind of cover them up because the tatai would come and grab their toes. You wouldn't want the tatai to come grab their toes while they're sleeping. It's a little old saying there. We'll talk about the verb tenir and the verb tiendre. Okay, tenir is an international French word and we use it as well in Louisiana French, meaning to hold. There's an old version of this called tiendre, and typically pronounced chan in Louisiana French. Now, in the present tense, they're both pronounced tien or chan with that kind of Louisiana French, Acadian French pronunciation. But tenir and tien are both verbs meaning to hold, and so you might hear both. So you might hear things, tu vas tenir ça, you're going to hold that, or tu vas tien ça, you're going to hold that kind of idea there. Okay, let's talk about this word here. How about this word? This is a good one. We're going to talk about the word toilette. In Louisiana French, and toilette does not very often mean a toilet. It does not. And one of the things, this is pretty much, I don't agree with the way this is written in Louisiana French, because very often toilette is not a toilet in Louisiana French. Faire sa toilette can mean to groom yourself, but toilette, in many varieties of Louisiana French, toilette refers to a dresser. And commode would be a toilet more often. And commode would be a toilet. And it's kind of like the opposite in international French. Okay, and there's an expression in international French when a woman will faire sa toilette, means she's going to put on her makeup and everything, and get her put on her perfume and things like that, wash herself up. Usually, and again, usually does that at a dresser, not in a toilet. Okay, so toilette is not typically toilet in Louisiana French. Okay, a dove is called a tourte, and tourte. Now we have the expression tout le monde. We typically don't say tout le monde, but tout le monde, which is for everyone. We also have another Louisiana French expression. That first one is pretty international, which is tout quelqu'un, tout quelqu'un, or tout quelqu'un, tout quelqu'un. It's like quelqu'un, which is somebody, then two with the two or two before it, meaning all. So tout quelqu'un would be everybody or everyone. Traka is a word we use a lot. It's an international French word, but we use it more often than in international French. And we use it to mean or internationally you would say inquiété to mean worried. We would say tracassé to be worried. Okay, and we use tracas more often. We don't say problème very often, like problems. We say des tracas. You would say trouble sometimes for troubled, but we like the word tracas. So it's a good word we use a lot. All right, and traiteur. Now, traiteur in Louisiana French is different from traiteur international French. Traiteur international French is a caterer, and traiteur in Louisiana French, what we call a treater, or it's a healer. Someone who sometimes they can heal with remedies, folk remedies, traditional remedies, or sometimes with prayers or a combination thereof. And so, un traiteur. Transfert was a word used to mean like a bus or a school bus. And travaillant is a worker. Trompe. Let's talk about the word trompe. In international French, the word for wet is mouillé. To wet is mouillé. If you are wet, t'es mouillé. Okay, mouillé is specifically used in Louisiana French and in like Old Acadian French to mean to rain. Mouillé is the verb to rain. Thus, to say something's wet, we use the word to wet something would be tromper, which internationally means to soak. And but so as the adjective, however, it's not necessarily tromper. The adjective is trompe. Il est trompe. It means he's wet. Il est trompe. Okay. All right, let's go to the letter U. The letter U, and the word I want to talk about there is the word user. User, okay? We don't typically use very often the word utiliser, meaning to use. We use the word user, meaning to use. Now, user can mean used in international French as well, but it's more often in a used up kind of way. But we use it on top. Tu peux user ça means you can use it, make use of it. So, the word V, I'm going to talk about the word vaillant. Now, vaillant, from the south central, southwestern parts of the states, vaillant refers to nice, friendly, okay? However, in the southeastern parts of the state, you can hear vaillant used more often just to mean nice looking, okay? So you might want to, if you're trying to say, oh, toi t'es vaillant, and you're somebody, and if you call toi t'es vaillant, and you're in Lafayette, they understand that, right? You're nice. If you say toi t'es vaillant and you're in Thibodaux or in Lafourche Parish and Galliano, and you say toi t'es vaillant, they're gonna think they look good. So just make sure you understand what it changes from region to region. Let's talk about this next one. Vaurien. A vaurien is a good for nothing. A good bon à rien, sometimes we call it. Let's look at this next one. How about this word here? Un vieux garçon. And vieux garçon sounds like old boy. Un vieux garçon is the word used for like an unmarried man. And vieux garçon. And vieille fille would be like an old maid, an unmarried woman in a sense. Vilain. Talk about the word vilain. Vilain is the word we use more often for ugly. We don't use very often the word laid or lead for ugly. We say vilain. Des vilaines moyards or bad manners. Du vilain temps is not some bad weather. It's bad weather, ugly weather, I guess you could say. Virer is a word we use meaning to change directions. We have the word virer. Veer, like in English, virer. Okay. Let's talk about a couple of things. Voir, okay? Voir is often pronounced voir. We drop the V. Voir meaning to see. And I've mentioned that before, that voir is also a term, terme de politesse that you use. Like I said earlier, garde voir ça. Garde voir ça. Voir meaning to see, but when I say garde voir ça, I'm not necessarily mean I don't necessarily mean to see. There's more of a polite way of saying it, because I can also say écoute voir, which means listen, which would literally be listen, see. So voir means to see, but voir also is just a little polite term you might put following asking someone to do something. Viens voir. Viens voir means come see. It doesn't mean come, it means come see, because in Louisiana English, but internationally, or actually outside of Louisiana, we wouldn't say come see, we'd say come here. But in Louisiana's French, we say come see because in French we say viens voir, and it just means to come here. It's just voir is more of a polite thing to say. We talked about, I think we talked about how the same thing can be done with voisin. The V can be dropped. You can pronounce voisin for a neighbor, voisinage, a neighborhood. Volaille. Volaille is internationally the word for poultry, but in certain regions, volaille specifically means chicken. You know, like a morceau de volaille means a piece of chicken. You know, morceau de volaille, piece of chicken. Vous autres, we talk about that. Vous autres is the way we say the plural you. Vous autres. It's autre, but we pronounce autre. All right. And we're going to finish with the letter Z, and the word I would like to talk about is these two words. First one is zir, or zirable. Zir and zirable are old French words. In Acadian French, you find them in old in France in that old glossary I was talking about. Zir meaning disgust. Actually, you'll find zir in both of them. Louisiana, from this word zir, disgust, and plus so ça me fait zir, that means it kind of disgusts me, grosses me out, you know. But in Louisiana French, we created the word zirable from there. It was an adjective. Ça c'est zirable means like it's disgusting, or like revolting. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk about is the pronunciation of the words for a goose and for a bird. Typically in Louisiana French, we would say un oiseau, and zoie. Okay, zoiseau. It comes from the using of the liaison les oiseaux, les oies. So we say un zoie for a goose and zoiseau for a bird. You know. And so that's the little glossary for today. That's a little lesson. I'll be back as soon as I'm able with some more French lessons at a later time. Please, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And you can click on the little bell and get alerts for it. If you want to subscribe to be a part of our Facebook group, we have a Facebook group for Louisiana French Lessons, and there's a lot of other information on my channel. Hopefully, you will find it useful or enjoyable. And if you're able to do so, please consider making a donation. The information's on the page as well. All right. Merci beaucoup. C'était un plaisir d'être avec vous autres aujourd'hui. Jusqu'à la prochaine fois. Soignez vous autres et soignez les autres. Au revoir.